Hello, I'm Mary V. Today, let's talk about a method of practice that really helps with nerves. So for many of us, the very first note is the most frightening one, actually. And we can find that we've got this sort of hyper reality going on, this awareness that is not like when we're in the practice room. We're suddenly aware of the audience and we're suddenly aware of ourselves. And we've got all this extra stuff going on in our minds. So rather than deal with the nerves by thoughts, trying to control ourselves, this method deals with the approach of nerves by actually doing something about it through practice. So it's a very practical thing. First of all, in the approach of the bow, my teacher kept saying to me, keep the bow moving, keep it moving, keep yourself moving. And I took a long time to understand what he meant. But it's, if you're starting, say, the Thais meditation, and you start like this, with the bow still, because that gives a chance for the elbow to lock up and for the shakes to happen. So that is a really difficult start if you start with a shake. So with this method of practice, start with the bow down so that you can experience everything, all the thoughts that keep happening to you before you play, because that's when everything starts rushing in and it makes the first note really difficult. If you can repeat that and repeat that and repeat that, so that you're very, very familiar with all these thoughts that keep happening, that is what is so very, very helpful in the real situation, because you're familiar with the processes that go on. So the way to do this is to just keep starting the piece. Now notice as well that I'm letting all my breath out before I play as I'm lifting the bow, because if your breath is, if you take in deep breaths, that leads to a lot of tension. Do you see the difference? So if it gets worse and worse, this is actually a good thing. This is part of the process, okay? So just keep going. So inside, I can feel different things happening with my breathing, with my the choices I'm making about my vibrato, the movement of the arm up, the placing of the bow on the string. Now, this is the great thing about this exercise, is that you become incredibly aware of all these tiny things. And what you're doing is that these tiny things you're normally not quite as aware of in normal practice. But when you get onto the stage and you have nerves, you become incredibly aware of these things. So Actually practicing being aware of it really, really helps with nerves. You're able to absorb all these things and be aware of all the different things that can happen, all the tiny little minute changes. And you're absorbing all that and you're becoming very familiar and comfortable with it. Okay? So keep going with it. And now I understand what my teacher was talking about. I keep my arm moving. It creates some sort of dynamism, some movement and energy in the bow. Even if it's a soft start like this, it's quite important to do, not to become rigid anywhere. So that's a great awareness. So I'm becoming aware of the best way to breathe. I breathe in and then just before I put the bow on the string, I let the breath out. And it really helps with my placement. Even though this might get a bit worse and you end up feeling you can't even put your bow on the string, there's so much happening. I promise you it does get better if you keep going at it. You can leave it for a while, go and have a cup of tea and then come back. I might do it a few times without vibrato. I've tried to explain that time moves in a different way when you're playing the violin and also when you have nerves. It's like everything either moves very, very fast or very, very slow. Some people are affected where they can't think or they think too much. This type of repetition and giving yourself a chance to really experience all the crowdedness of what happens in nerves is an extremely effective way to deal with it and maybe get rid of them forever if you practice properly. So knowing the notes and practicing very thoroughly the piece is of course an essential, but practicing this way near the end and just practicing the very beginning can often be enough just to allow the nerves to completely dissipate. So I do hope you found that helpful, and I'll say bye-bye for now. Bye.